My life once ran like clockwork, a routine so steady it felt like it would last forever. The morning light, the quiet hum of the house, it was a life built on trust, a sanctuary I never thought to question. Work was demanding, but my focus was sharp, anchored by the simple belief that home was safe. My world was stable, predictable, and then, one day, it wasn't. A message came through. It wasn't urgent, but something about it felt off, a small crack in the perfect facade. My gut told me to go home, so I left work early, telling myself I was just reclaiming a few hours of my day. The driveway was the same, the front door unlocked, just as I'd left it. But inside, the silence was heavy, thick with something unfamiliar. The usual sounds of life were gone. Then I heard them. Voices from another room, careless and unguarded, spoken as if they were the only two people in the world. Recognition seeped in slowly, then all at once, a cold, painful wave. The truth was right there, plain and undeniable. What stunned me wasn't just what I saw, but how ordinary it all seemed to them, how mundane the betrayal. In that frozen moment, time stretched, burning every detail into my memory. Anger rose, not as a fiery explosion, but as something hard and cold, settling deep inside me. I turned and walked away, each step feeling like I was pushing against gravity itself, leaving behind a life that had just vanished into thin air. The air outside felt sharp, stripping away the last shreds of warmth and comfort. I focused on my breathing in, out a deliberate act to keep myself from shattering. That night, sleep never came. Instead, I pushed emotion aside and focused on survival. When morning finally arrived, it brought a strange sense of calm, the kind that only comes after you've made a decision you can never take back. From that point on, everything I did was intentional. I chose silence over confrontation. A fight would have given them a satisfaction they didn't deserve, so I watched. I observed. I spent the following days in quiet preparation, separating my life from the one we had shared. I gathered documents, reviewed accounts, and traced the patterns of deception. Every discovery was a quiet confirmation of what my gut had already told me. This wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. The hardest part was the performance pretending that nothing had changed. Every normal conversation felt like I was acting in a play on a stage that was already empty. The distance between us grew naturally, an unspoken chasm. My newfound independence was just absence in disguise. Then, one day, without a word, without an announcement or explanation, I left. It wasn't an escape. It was me taking back control. My disappearance left a void filled with confusion and questions. My silence was the only answer they got. And then, just as I had anticipated, their world began to crumble. The stability they took for granted was built on a foundation I had provided, and once I was gone, it collapsed. The support systems they relied on vanished when the facade could no longer be maintained. From a distance, I finally saw everything with a clarity that had been impossible up close. I moved to a new place, a place where I was anonymous. This anonymity wasn't lonely. It was liberating. It gave me the space to reflect without judgment. I started working again, but this time it was simpler. I focused on my skills, not on status. I found purpose again, not prestige. Yes, loneliness came in waves, but it was a clean feeling, honest and true, unlike the suffocating fog of betrayal. Old memories would surface sometimes, flashes of laughter and moments of innocence. They were painful, but they were real, grounding me in what was lost and what remained. News of the fallout traveled, slowly at first and then all at once. It turns out consequences have a way of spreading. I never celebrated their downfall. That wasn't the point. Revenge was never the goal. Balance was. And in the end, I realized my absence had been louder and more effective than any argument I could have ever made. Time kept moving, and eventually the weight of their actions settled in. Guilt turned into accountability. They had to start repairing what they could, facing the mess they had made. Not everything could be saved, but some things mattered more than their pride. I decided to return, not in triumph, but with caution. The world I came back to was not the one I had left. Familiar places felt smaller, burdened by history. I saw regret and exhaustion in their faces. The truth didn't need me to defend it anymore. It stood on its own. What came next wasn't forgiveness but resolution. I accepted the reality of what happened, instead of clinging to the illusion of what could have been. And strangely, that reality felt lighter. Life began to reorganize itself. A new kind of stability took root, and routine found its meaning again. I learned to trust, but this time selectively, slowly. I built boundaries that were non-negotiable. The past was no longer a ghost haunting my present. It was a lesson that informed my future. I found strength not in being loud or dominant, but in restraint. I found peace not in winning, but in closure. What once felt like a devastating loss now felt like a release. Freedom had arrived disguised as emptiness, but it revealed itself as pure clarity. The hardest lesson became the most valuable. Trust, once broken, changes everything. But rebuilding your life doesn't mean you have to go back to what failed. It means you get to choose differently. My story didn't end with a victory or a defeat. It ended with me taking ownership of my own life. Standing on my own 2 feet no longer felt like failure. It felt intentional. And in that quiet certainty, my life finally began again. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more content.